Imagine a man who stepped into the most brutal, unforgiving combat sport on earth and walked out 50 times without a single defeat, turning the violent art of fighting into a billion-dollar global spectacle. He did not just dodge punches, he dodged the traditional rules of sports marketing, transforming himself from a highly skilled athlete into a walking, talking, social media-dominating brand that generated more revenue than entire professional leagues. This is the extraordinary reality of a fighter who mastered the psychological warfare of the ring just as brilliantly as he mastered the physical mechanics of the shoulder roll. His journey from the turbulent, crime-ridden streets of a Michigan casino town to the absolute pinnacle of global wealth and athletic immortality is a masterclass in self-preservation, financial genius, and the relentless pursuit of being number one. To understand his legacy is to understand the evolution of the modern athlete, a paradigm shift where the fighter is no longer just a competitor, but the ultimate promoter, the chief executive, and the undisputed master of his own destiny. The genesis of this unparalleled combat sports phenomenon began in the winter of 1977 in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Born into a family deeply entrenched in the boxing world, his destiny was practically written before he could even walk. His father was a former contender who fought for a world title, and his uncles were also professional fighters, creating an environment where the sweet science was not just a sport, but a family trade and a means of survival. However, his early childhood was marked by profound instability and hardship. His parents struggled with substance abuse, and his father was frequently incarcerated, forcing the young boy to be raised primarily by his mother and his father's associates in a rough, unforgiving neighborhood. This chaotic environment could have easily derailed his life, but the boxing gym became his ultimate sanctuary. Surrounded by the smell of sweat, leather, and old canvas, he found discipline, structure, and a clear path to escape the systemic poverty that surrounded him. He began training at an incredibly young age, displaying a natural, almost supernatural aptitude for the sport, quickly amassing an astonishing amateur record that culminated in a bronze medal at the 1996 Olympic Games in Atlanta. Transitioning to the professional ranks immediately after the Olympics, he signed with a major promotional company and began a meteoric rise through the lower weight classes. In his early years, he was marketed as Pretty Boy, a nod to his unblemished face and his heavily defensive, elusive style. He captured his first world title at super featherweight in 1998, displaying a level of speed, precision, and ring generalship that was rarely seen in a teenager. He moved through the divisions with terrifying efficiency, collecting world championships at super featherweight, lightweight, and light welterweight. During this period, he established himself as a formidable puncher, capable of stopping opponents with blistering combinations. However, as he matured and the physical toll of the sport began to accumulate, he made a conscious, brilliant decision to alter his fighting philosophy. He realized that taking unnecessary damage was not just a physical risk, but a financial one. He transitioned from an aggressive, high-volume puncher into the ultimate defensive mastermind, a shift that would define the rest of his legendary career. His tactical evolution into a defensive genius is widely considered one of the greatest masterclasses in boxing history. He perfected the Philly shell, a highly unorthodox guarding style that involves keeping the lead shoulder high to block jabs, tucking the chin behind it, and keeping the lead hand low to parry incoming strikes. This posture allowed him to slip, roll, and pull away from punches by mere millimeters, making his opponents miss by the smallest of margins. But his defensive brilliance was only half of the equation. His counterpunching was the lethal trap. By making his opponents miss, he forced them to overextend and lose their balance, creating the perfect angles to land devastating, perfectly timed counterhooks and straight rights. His ring intelligence was off the charts, allowing him to dictate the pace, control the distance, and psychologically break his opponents by making them feel entirely powerless to land a clean shot. He turned the ring into a chessboard, and he was always 10 moves ahead. As he moved up in weight to challenge the bigger, naturally larger fighters at welterweight, his defensive mastery became even more pronounced. He faced some of the most dangerous, aggressive, and highly regarded champions of his era, including the legendary Mexican fighter Oscar de la Hoya, the devastating puncher Ricky Hatton, and the powerful Manny Pacquiao. In every single encounter, he neutralized their greatest weapons. Against the aggressive swarmers, he used his footwork to maintain the distance and pick them apart from the outside. Against the heavy punchers, he used his head movement and shoulder rolls to let their power shots glance off him harmlessly. He never relied on luck or a glass jaw. His survival was based on an impenetrable tactical framework. He proved that a smaller, highly skilled fighter could completely dismantle a larger, stronger opponent simply by controlling the geometry of the ring and exploiting their psychological frustrations. Beyond his physical and tactical brilliance in the ring, his most revolutionary achievement was his absolute mastery of the business of boxing. Recognizing that traditional promoters often took the lion's share of the profits while the fighters assumed all the physical risks, he decided to take complete control of his career. He eventually broke away from the traditional promotional model, establishing his own promotional company and negotiating unprecedented deals that gave him a massive percentage of the pay-per-view revenue. He understood early on that in the modern sports landscape, attention is the ultimate currency. He rebranded himself from the clean-cut pretty boy to the flamboyant, arrogant, and unapologetic Floyd "Money" Mayweather. He began flaunting his immense wealth on social media, posting pictures of his massive cash reserves, his fleet of luxury cars, his private jets, and his extravagant lifestyle. This polarizing persona generated immense heat, drawing the ire of purists, but captivating the masses. He understood that people would tune in to watch him whether they loved him or hated him, and he monetized that attention better than anyone in the history of sports. The absolute zenith of his financial and cultural dominance was the highly anticipated mega fight against the Filipino icon Manny Pacquiao in 2015. Dubbed the fight of the century, this bout transcended the sport of boxing, becoming a global cultural event that generated over $600 million in revenue. For years, the public had demanded this matchup, and when it finally happened, Mayweather executed a flawless tactical performance, outboxing and outpointing his rival over 12 rounds. The victory not only cemented his status as the undisputed pound-for-pound king of the world, but also resulted in a personal payday that shattered all previous records in combat sports. He had successfully navigated the most lucrative fight in history, proving that his business acumen was just as sharp as his boxing skills. He had turned his name into a global brand, a synonym for wealth, success, and invincibility. Following his official retirement with a pristine 50-0 record, he continued to blur the lines between professional boxing and pure entertainment. He engaged in a highly publicized, incredibly lucrative crossover bout against the Ultimate Fighting Championship superstar Conor McGregor. While many purists criticized the event as a circus, it was a masterstroke of modern sports entertainment, generating hundreds of millions of dollars and introducing his brand to an entirely new, younger demographic. He followed this with a series of exhibition bouts against social media personalities and former champions, always maintaining his undefeated mystique while cashing massive checks. These events demonstrated his profound understanding of the modern attention economy, proving that his drawing power extended far beyond the traditional boxing audience. He had successfully transformed himself from a traditional athlete into a global entertainment mogul. Naturally, a life lived in the extreme spotlight of billions of dollars and constant public scrutiny is bound to attract controversy. His career was frequently marred by legal issues, including domestic incidents and federal tax evasion charges, which led to brief periods of incarceration. The media and the public often heavily criticized his lifestyle, his arrogance, and his legal troubles. However, he possessed an extraordinary ability to absorb the negativity and convert it into fuel for his brand. He never offered traditional, polished public apologies, instead leaning into his villain persona, which only further intrigued the public. He used the controversy to maintain his relevance during his time away from the ring, ensuring that his name remained at the top of the trending topics. He proved that in the modern digital age, notoriety and fame are often intertwined, and he was more than willing to embrace the villain role if it meant securing his financial empire. Despite the polarizing nature of his public persona, those who know him speak of a different side, a man who is fiercely protective of his family, highly disciplined in his private life, and surprisingly generous to his inner circle. He has funded countless community projects in his hometown, often doing so quietly and without the fanfare that accompanies his public spending sprees. His dedication to his craft was absolute. He was known for his grueling training camps, his strict diet, and his obsessive focus on the details of his preparation. He treated his body like a billion-dollar asset, investing heavily in recovery, nutrition, and medical care to ensure he could perform at the highest level well into his late 30s and beyond. This relentless professionalism is what ultimately allowed him to maintain his undefeated record, a testament to a work ethic that matched his undeniable natural talent. The legacy of this extraordinary combat sports icon is permanently etched into the history of global athletics. He retired as the greatest defensive boxer of his generation, a master tactician who solved the puzzle of every opponent he faced. But his impact extends far beyond the canvas of the boxing ring. He revolutionized the financial model for fighters, proving that athletes can and should take control of their own intellectual property and revenue streams. He pioneered the use of social media in sports marketing, showing future generations of athletes how to build a personal brand that transcends their actual performance. He navigated the treacherous waters of fame, controversy, and immense wealth, emerging as the highest-paid athlete in the world for multiple years. From the rough streets of Grand Rapids to the glittering arenas of Las Vegas and the global stage, his journey is the ultimate testament to the power of self-belief, strategic brilliance, and the relentless pursuit of greatness. He did not just conquer his opponents in the ring, he conquered the business of sports, leaving behind a blueprint for wealth and success that will be studied by athletes and entrepreneurs for generations to come.